Good morning, everybody. This is Lorraine.
And Jennifer.
And this morning, we're going to talk about measuring your marketing because at the end of the day, you want to know if your marketing is working, right?
Yep. So it's really about like measurement versus attribution. And I think a lot of people potentially get this confused and think it's the same thing when it's actually two different things.
Okay, so let's start with some definitions. If I'm measuring my marketing, what am I counting? What am I looking at? What am I studying?
Obviously, it depends on the type of marketing that you're doing, but you are measuring different items to see if it is working or not. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're getting all the way to the end on attribution, where you're saying this is the actual marketing that got somebody to complete the desired action of a phone call, a form fill, or an actual sale.
Okay, so with measuring, I might be looking at how much exposure an ad got. I might be looking at how much engagement. Top of the funnel type of activities, I'm getting somebody's attention, I'm grabbing random strangers and bringing them in.
Yep.
But where they go from there, and this is what customers and business owners typically want to know is, well, great, they saw my ad, but did they do anything? And the did they do anything is really the attribution.
Correct. We're kind of trained as business owners to think in terms of attribution because we're looking at the bottom line and we're looking at, exactly where it came from. But if we don't look at the attribute or the measurement, all the other items, then we might throw out certain types of marketing because we might not think that it's of value because we couldn't actually attribute that it was the last thing that somebody did. And a lot of that is because of A, the type of marketing, and B, the technology these days is severed off in a lot of scenarios.
Absolutely. But you know what? I'm going to go old school for a minute. 20 years ago, before Facebook, before any of this, I would teach something called the marketing pyramid, where you looked at the difference between a referral lead or an advertising lead. And we talked about how many times somebody had to see your message. And it was anywhere between 5 and 10 times before they got motivated to take action.
Yeah.
And so all of that measurement is really focused on what are you doing at the very beginning stages that gets somebody ready
Yeah.
to take action, because most people do not take action the first time they see your message.
No, and it's getting even worse where we're very fragmented and we're looking at a lot more items. I think the reason this happens is because we're looking for simple ways to explain marketing, and it's easier to do it that way. So sometimes people only want to sell what they can directly understand and attribute, but it's not how it actually works.
No, the bottom line is I had a customer who said, I want 10 reservations for my Airbnb. It was a very specific objective. And we looked at it and we gave him a number, and he was quite taken back. And I'm like, well, we're going to have to get in front of this many people. They're going to have to see your message this many times. And to get them to that point where they even reach out and ask about the room. And, all of that work is, I think a lot of marketers want to focus on that. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. How much of that do I need to do to get to the end goal?
They do because it's easier to sell. That's why.
Oh,
And it's easy to explain,
absolutely.
but they're not considering sales cycles, and they're not considering that people take longer to buy certain products and services. And so that other type of marketing needs to be there, and you need to be able to explain the value of that by using certain measurements. So one thing you brought up, let's just isolate a couple types of marketing. Like when we do even Facebook ads, so podcast or streaming, what we're doing right now, we can measure how many people we get in front of, and we can measure that people engage with that and that we're producing good content. But we won't be able to technologically tie that sale all the way down because the technology is not there. It used to be there and it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going back in time, and not a lot of people understand that that has happened. And so they're just like throwing out certain types of marketing, i.e., Facebook ads sometimes now, because the attribution got lost. Like, oh, I can't directly tell. It doesn't mean it's not still effective. You just need to measure and present it differently.
Absolutely. And so it puts more of the burden back where it used to be, which is
Mhm.
on the web metrics. And so, and on the web designer. And by that, I mean creating landing pages that are unique to different
Yeah,
campaigns with a lot of the attribution tools that were available until Facebook and Apple got into the privacy wars, which is really what this all is about. You
right.
used to be able to follow that line directly. Well, before that kind of metric was available, you could create unique landing pages, pain in the ass. There is
Mm,
no other way to say that, to
yeah.
have a unique page for every campaign. But when you do that, if that page gets traffic, it can only come from one place.
Yep, yep, and I never believed in that model, and I'm even more kind of against that model. I've seen a couple scenarios where it makes sense, where maybe somebody only is going to call right then and there, like let's just say like a DUI attorney.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to pick up the phone. I need to call. I'm not doing a lot of research in that phase.
Yeah.
So I can see it in some scenarios, but in most case scenarios, that model does not work. And it never did work. We just kind of fooled ourselves into thinking that we could do that. And we really cut off a lot of that other marketing that was very valuable, and it's going to come back around. And I also think there's a lot of big name softwares, and I'm not going to name them right now, that are still selling this story that the attribution can actually happen when it can't. The
Mm-hmm.
technology is not there, and I'm just waiting for them to admit this,
Mm-hmm.
and they won't admit it.
Yeah, I think again, if what you're trying to do is track whether or not um, your ad motivated somebody to come to the page, if you're
Uh-huh.
trying to measure whether the page, and again, if you're in an industry where you have a longer sales cycle, then you probably need to be going to a download. You need to have options on that page where people can sign up to get additional information. You need to be thinking about conversion differently.
Yeah, and most people do, unless we're talking about widgets or things that are item, doesn't cost a whole lot, or emergency type situations. Most people have a longer sales cycle than they care to admit.
Yes, yes. I came out of the heating and air conditioning industry, and for the most part, the sales cycle is 72 hours.
Yeah. But
When you're
aren't they more likely to make a decision and go with somebody because they're already familiar and they know, like, and trust that brand? Yes.
absolutely, 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 which is why you have to be doing all sorts of trust building marketing and advertising and other service and referral and recommendation and um,
Billboards
bill.
and all kinds of stuff, TV ads. Like, you don't need a heating and air when the TV ad comes on. No, but you end up using them because you know, like, and trust them.
You remember their name. You saw their sign. I mean, marketing did not start with the internet.
No.
And I know I know there are a lot of young people out there that are thinking I'm crazy, but there was marketing before there was attribution.
Yeah.
And the way that you measured is you either saw a spike in your calls and your interest after you ran ads, or you didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's basic marketing skills that I feel like a lot of people are going to have to go back and understand all of this. And yeah, it's just measurement and attribution are different, and you can't always attribute to every single type of marketing. I go back to my saying is it's not the last beer that you drank that got you drunk. It's all the beers. And it's the same thing for marketing. It's all the marketing.
It's all the marketing. There's one of these other old sayings. It's if 50% of my advertising is working. If I knew which 50%, I could get rid of the rest. You know?
Yeah.
And it's it's exactly the same thing. It's you have to experiment. You have to be watching the big picture. When I made this change, did I see a change in the overall engagement, interaction, call volume? Nope.
Yep.
Okay, maybe I need to look at something else.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
But you don't need to look at anything else. You need to come right back here next Friday because we'll be having another small business chat.
All right. Take care.
Bye
Bye.
now.